Bird Mountain, a short story by Zdravka Evtimova. She worked in the chicken cutting workshop. All day plastic bags, heaps of meat, cleavers and cubes of ice. Hard day work, no time, always on foot. At the end of working hours, she thought she weighed as much as an endless ploughed field, could barely bend forward at the waist. After Stefka came back home and put everything in place, the pain disappeared and the cold air stopped tormenting her. She loved the path to their house, a one-story affair, its walls redolent of various delicious dishes her mum and grandma had cooked, working wonders in the kitchen. This long walk from the workshop to their backyard was her magic recipe. On the way home, she felt something happy and beautiful was in store for her, probably on Wednesday. It was in the air, in the spring wind. Stefka was a smart woman, yet she disliked the idea of admitting it. It was Zachary that gave her the feeling of happiness. At first, he hadn't impressed her. Thin and silent, a blackbird of a guy. He worked in the shipment department, a job like any other. Everything around him too clean and neat. Once, Stefka stumbled and fell on the floor tiles. He darted towards her, held out his hand, and helped her stand up. Then he went to the kitchen and came back with a glass of water in hand. "You'll be fine," he told her as he leaned over the packages again. They rarely spoke. Once in a blue moon he said, "Hi," and that was it. But from that Wednesday, the village of Chubra seemed to glow in front of Stefka. One-story houses, their roofs fishing nets in the air, and Zachary. What was he really like? Was there someone Stefka could ask about him? Grandma Todora, of course. Grandma Todora knew everything. The woman had 9 grandchildren, all boys, all scattered around the world, Sweden, Portugal, Germany. "They are the sun's kids," explained Grandma Todora, her face all wrinkles and a smile. It felt like the moon was born in her eyes, a full moon which sauntered around the world, taking the night home in a silver car. "This is my rich world. Every night the moon leaves a silver ring for me," continued Grandma Todora, "and I give it to a girl." "You don't have any silver," Stefka objected. "Oh, I have, in my mind, and I'm all silver. Here, this pool of silver is for you. Just give me your hand." Stefka felt the old woman's fingers on her cheek and the old cracked hand, light as a cup of coffee. "Now you have everything," the old woman muttered. "Love will come to you willy-nilly." "Tell me," the ancient wrinkles smiled mysteriously, "who do you want to ask me about?" "Well, no one," Stefka blurted out, but the old black eyes knew everything, so she admitted, "Zachary." "That Zachary guy who has 2 brothers, and he works in the chicken shop? Zachary who loves his fishing rod more than his daily bread? This crazy boy. Sit down, it's a long story that I'm going to have to tell you." This year, the month of March was like no other before. The sun didn't show up, and the sky was a sullen child. Snowstorms and snowdrifts drove away people from the streets. March is the woman's month. We're women and proud of it, Stefka thought. Let's show everyone that we are a fist made of sun and snow. We keep the earth warm so that you can sow wheat, and we're strong enough to frighten the frosts away. This is what we, women, are. Zach's father set off to Komi in Russia to make big money. I'm sure he went and did it. Old Todora said. His 3 sons are decent chaps, each one of them. Zachary turned out the smartest among the lot, you know. Graduated from a high school, excellent grades and all that. You'd hardly believe it. Just look at him, as thin as a weed. A stiff wind would blow him off any time these days. The guy says he's a fisherman, but if a minnow bites the hook of his fishing rod, the fish will drive your Zach into the shallows. You can take my word for it. No, it won't, Stefka interrupted her. At that moment, Tedora's face lit up, its deep wrinkles glowing. The long, tedious years ran away from her eyes, and her face was one of a sharp, smiling old woman. Oh, the woman shook her head. I see I don't have to give you a silver ring. You're made of silver, girl. Is it Zach who gave it to you? Your Zachary guy took me to Sungalari when my liver hurt. Oh, it hurt like hell. Zach took my grandson Vancho to the best hospital in Sliven too, she added. Vancho broke a window pane and it almost cut off his left arm. Zach wouldn't take the money I gave him. Not one lev did he put in his pocket. Why are you doing this, man? I asked him. Do you think you can pick money like thistles in the field or dig levs out of the mud near the river bank? At that point, the old woman shut up. It was cold, a proper spring day, 26 March. Shouldn't make you freeze, should it? The gale would nip the cherry and pear trees in the bud. The houses waited, sleepy under the shawl of snow. Not the woman's month of March governed the land and the sky. It was his brother, the month of January, that did it. What happened then? Asked Stefka, who couldn't curb her curiosity. And that was, of course, a wrong thing to do. The moon has given you more silver than you need, the old woman didn't mince words. And girl, I know very well the guy you keep your silver for. It's Zach, isn't it? Zach is rain and a sunny day, and you are the meadow of the bird mountain. Even the little kids in Chubra knew this meadow because after the snow melted, it turned into a cloud of violets. The whole mountain smelled sweet, and you thought you were not in Chubra, a village of one-story houses, where, believe it or not, the town hall was a tiny building. No other place was that beautiful, Stefka thought. Neither Paris nor Lisbon, where her sister had been living for 2 years now. Not even Calgary in Canada, where her eldest sister used to work. Chubra, a cloud of wild violets. If Bird Mountain were a lad, he'd be handsome from the sole of his shoes to his cap. Hey, Zach, are you crazy or what? You take sick men to the hospital in the town of Sliven. You mend broken roofs and fences and take no money in return. One would say Atanas' son has a screw loose. But I know you, Zach. You have no screw loose at all. Then I found out the answer to this riddle. Grandma Tedora's words moved slowly. Not words, heavy trucks they were, and rumbled through Chubra, the village hiding like a sparrow amongst bushes and trees. You've heard something clattering, and you shook with fear. Then you found out there was no use fearing. Well, Stefka was not a patient one, no matter what you thought of her. What did Zachary tell you? Old Tedora began slowly. When the family lived in Komi, Russia, Zach and his 2 brothers went for a swim in the river. That river there wasn't like our muddy stream here, which has hardly enough courage to push its way through stones and sand in Bird Mountain. The river in Komi was as wide as the sea they let us see on the TV. I've never seen a real sea, though, the old woman sighed. Honestly, I don't care about one. It's enough to look at you, Stefka, and I can see it. You've got a bigger sea than the one on the TV for that Zachary guy. Let God keep him alive and kicking for 90 more years to come. So the three brothers were swimming in the river. My mother, God bless her soul, said Comey was a peculiar land. In the winter, wood and stone cracked in the cold, and in summer, wood and stone got so hot they burst into flames. That was okay with the guys in Comey. They didn't mind the weather. However, that river's nature was evil, like a bear's. The water was stronger than Zachary. The waves clutched him. No shore in sight. No help. Then what? Well, some young guys saw the kid drowning. Two jumped into the river. They were tough enough and swam. Was it half an hour or less? Grabbed our boy by the hair and tugged him to the shore. He looked dead and gone. They breathed air into his lungs. I couldn't tell you how they call this type of breathing. Artificial respiration or what? Artificial like plastic, if you ask me. To cut a long story short, our Zach made it and didn't kick the bucket. His mum told me that day, or was it in the evening, Zachary said to her, "Mum, God saved my life so that I'll be able to save other people's lives." Mark my word, girl, I don't call it stupidity that Zachary took me to Sungalari and refused to accept my money. His is no beauty that eyes can see. You see it with your heart. Don't forget what I'm telling you. Well, I'm sure you already know it. Stefka didn't say anything. She was no good at shooting the breeze. What's a word, she thought. A gulp of air. You breathe out and another word comes. Stefka gave Grandma Todora a big hug. Didn't even say thank you. There was no use prattling. The old one knew everything there was to know about silver that the moon gave people. The silver you couldn't see with your eyes. The Roma girls saw it with their blood. Stefka thought hard. She had made a mistake. It's better to give a word to the wind rather than not say it at all. The wind was a wild thing. You couldn't guess if it would blow or not. Well, the wind could bring your thank you to some guy you didn't know, and perhaps it would make him feel better. He'd be happy for a minute, and maybe your thank you would be behind it all. How should Stefka make Zachary bring her a glass of water one more time? If she fell down again in front of him, it would seem false, a trumped-up affair, and he was a smart guy who'd graduated from a good high school. He was bound to see through her stratagem. She's a sly dog, our Stefka is, Zach would say. She'd leave no stone unturned to catch me in her trap. And to be honest, she has not studied much for sure. No, Stefka had to find a solution, something slick and smart, but what should it be? She made up her mind to go visit Grandma Todora again and to ask for advice. She did. However, this time old Todora cut her short. Mind your manners, girl. If you care about a man, you don't ask Todora's advice. You listen to your blood. If your blood teaches you nothing, then nothing will happen between you and Zach. Stefka was not the one who'd give up. She believed she was stronger than the word nothing, so she sat down and thought hard. If you love somebody, you don't think and calculate, she reasoned. You are thirsty and you love him. It was the wind sweeping through Bird Mountain that opened her eyes. Her best friend, Elena, a Bulgarian and an ambitious one at that, studied to become a high school teacher in literature. Elena, why should you put your head into an oven? A classroom is a true mare's nest, Stefka told her. The Roma kids don't care to go to school. It's wiser to find a job, isn't it? You don't make money at school. At school, you teach kids to grow up decent guys, Elena said. Elena had to take a stiff exam in classical Russian literature, and that was how the wind from Bird Mountain helped Stefka come up with a plan. She was going to ask Zachary, "Hey, Zachary, perhaps you might tell me where I can find all of these books for my friend Eleanor's exam." Eleanor wrote down a very long list. The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, Eugene Onegin by Pushkin, Dead Souls by Gogol. Once in a blue moon, Stefka dreamed of being in Eleanor's shoes. Why not leaf through the Brothers Karamazov and even read the book? Perhaps there was something very interesting in it. Then it seemed the tome was too thick and convoluted. Better cut chicken breasts and pack them into plastic boxes. Yet something gnawed away at her confidence. The books. Their titles seemed mysterious and inviting, like the path to their house. Stefka had grown up in the backyard behind the kitchen window, and every evening the place looked different, more beautiful than before. So she wrote down the titles of the 3 books on a sheet of paper and walked into the shipment department. Stefka was a courageous girl, taller and stronger than the verb to run away. "Zach," she began, "this is a list of books. Please tell me where I can find them." The man stared at her, his face a cloud of amazement. You could understand his consternation. A young woman who has hardly studied 8 years at school, one who cut up chicken breasts day in, day out, her brain no more than a baked chicken drumstick, planted herself in front of Zachary, asking him about Dostoevsky. Years after that cloudy day, after the 2 of them already had 2 sons, Samuel and Desislav, Grandma Todora came to visit the family. She explained she wanted to sing to the little kids. Zach and Stefka's boys were ballers, and that was all there was to it. God Almighty had put a landslide of bawling and squalling in their throats. You never knew with old Todora. They said she was friends with God, and that was why she sang to young tots. Her song had no words and no tune to it, an endless hey, impatient as a flock of hungry pigeons, yet the little ones stopped wailing. "What is a kid's brain?" Grandma Todora said. "It's a handful of lentils. You know what? Lentils strike root any field you sow them in. My song is a quiet place ready to take on any seed, and that's why, silly Zach and Stefka, your babies calm down. Aren't they treasures, so beautiful and quiet? Quiet my foot." A couple of years passed before their first son was born. "A merciful pair of eyes looked at us from above all the time," Zachary would say. One day, Nicola and Petko came to visit the family. The boys were brothers, aged 3 and 7. Their father settled in Spain, hoping to get rich quick. But the Spanish sky did not like him and gave him no money. Instead, the clouds sent a coffin his way. The man died in a road traffic crash. The villagers said the children's mum was killed in the crash too. The children had no grandparents. Zachary accepted to temporarily take care of the little ones. The social service officers found a distant cousin of the children in Sliven. They assigned the younger boy to her care and secured state assistance for the child. The elder brother, Nicola, was placed in foster care and remained with Zachary and Stefka. They became his official foster parents, enrolled Nicola in school, and he became a first-grade student. Then Samuel, Stefka's first son, was born. They had been waiting for a child so long that if you counted the days of waiting, your beard would turn grey. Samuel was a strong baby. This came to be, Stefka believed, because they loved and took care of the orphan, Nicola, like he was their own son. A smart lad, Nicola was, and he learned to read and write fairly quickly. In the evenings, the elder son, Samuel, sat on his father's knee. Desislav, their younger son, a treasure heaven had given the couple, waited quietly, hugging Zachary's arm, and Nicola sat on a stool opposite him. Zach told them the same story, how he'd take his 3 boys fishing out in Muddy, their angry and wild river, unbelievably rich in minnows. Dad will buy his boys the most expensive fishing rod, and the 4 of us will sit on the riverbank fishing. Oh, come off it. The boys were not the ones that just fell off the turnip truck, Zdravka thought. Why is he economical with the truth, eh? It was absolutely thoughtless of her husband to place the boys in the seats of their old bone shaker and drive them to Sungalari, to that obscure shop that looked like autumn rain all over the place. The shelves were full of fishing gear, baskets, stools, lines, and hooks. Yet the 4 of them stared at one fishing rod, so expensive your blood boiled and exploded. "This fishing rod is the world," Samuel, her elder son, would whisper. Her Zachary, quiet as a blackbird's wing, took the little sick children of Chubra to this fishing rod too. And when, in the end, the kid, having swallowed a load of antibiotic medicines, got well again, everybody prattled on about the crazy fishing thing until kingdom come. The sun and the moon rolled into one. That was what this rod was. "Nonsense," Zdravka cried out, hitting the ceiling. But after she saw the boys' happy faces turn into long and sad ones, she made up her mind to add something else. "Well, it's not exactly nonsense. You can find a sunny spot even in an evil man's eyes if you look hard enough. Perhaps the fishing rod is not that rotten." "Mom, can't you understand?" Samuel told her. "At night, this fishing rod lights the way of the river. The river gives the grass and the trees its waters, and that's why our Muddy is their mother." "Muddy River will teach me to swim. That's why she is my aunt," Desislav blurted out. The kid had grown up rapidly and was convinced that at 3 he was already a big, strong man. A baby, no sir. Zdravka smiled. Memories came flooding back. Zdravka believed that Chubra was a free and tough village. She remembered the day when Zachary asked her out to dinner in the town of Sliven. Her father stood in front of him at the door. "I don't have a girl to be taken out to dinner in Sliven," Zdravka's father snapped. "I know you help the villagers of Chubra, and that's a fact, but you haven't helped anybody of my kin." Zdravka's father was icy as Bird Mountain in January, rumbling down the steep hill. Blizzards hit Chubra. Raging snowstorms beat houses and fences. Waist-deep snowdrifts covered doors and windows. The snow in her father's eyes was 3 times as deep. Zachary was neither burly nor tall, yet the guy seemed to have his heart in the right place. Saying no word, he turned around and went away. After a quarter of an hour, he came back, a ring in hand, a thing as thin as a leaf of grass. "It's my grandma's," Zachary said. "You know I have 2 brothers. My grandma gave each one of us a gold ring. Give it to your girl when you find her," she instructed us. "I've met my girl. She is Zdravka." Zachary took a deep breath. "I'll give her the ring. You, sir, please calm down." "Haven't you planned to take Zdravka out to dinner in Sliven, old matey?" her father asked, a spring wind whipping up his face that still had a January blizzard in its black eyes. In spring, sparrows and jaybirds chirruped non-stop on the hill, and this was the reason young and old called it Bird Mountain. "Zachary, if I had known why you came to my place, I'd have invited you in to a glass of good wine." It was then that Zdravka knew her blood had learned to fly. If heaven should let her live for many long years, she'd be pretty and clean and genuine for Zachary. That was how a Roma woman took an oath, not by kissing the loaf of bread she'd baked for her children. She learned to fly and swore to herself. She knew she was the one to make the first, the last, and all other steps in between towards happiness. As long as heaven would let her breathe in the shadow of Bird Mountain, Stefka would wear the tiny gold ring her man had given her. In Komi, Russia, a guy from Finland gave Zachary an old Bible. Truth is inside it, truth about the grandest and the tiniest things, Stefka, Zachary told her. A breadcrumb has the same importance as the whole earth. God lives in every human being. He is in the breadcrumb, in the mud and in the sun, in ashes and in a gold coin, Zachary told her. God is the universe that has no shore and no end. We, the human beings, cannot imagine it, so he sent us his Son, a man whose love and mercy have no shore and no end. Perhaps Grandma Todora knows his Son because babies don't cry when she sings to them, and the temperature goes down when she gives the little ones blueberry juice. Stefka remembered his words. God saved my life so that I will be able to save other people, and she believed him. They built a new house, and there was a warm room for orphans under their roof. Zachary took the sick to Sungalari, to Sliven, driving his old Volkswagen car. The only thing Zachary accepted as a reward was a strong shovel, because the Roma guys in Chubra were skilled blacksmiths. The shovels they made didn't bend or break. The metal in their hands became as strong and gleaming as the blacksmith's dreams. At 40, Stefka made her mind to graduate from the high school. In Chubra, a couple of guys, smart as sparkling fire, graduated from vocational colleges in Sliven. Such a thing had not happened in their village for 15 years. Zachary became a health mediator. Could you explain to me what this means? People wondered. Well, if your kidneys hurt badly, and even worse, if you caught COVID, you went to Zachary, and he took you to the doctors in Sliven. Don't pull my leg, man. Zachary's been doing this as far as I remember, Stefka's neighbours declared. We didn't know the learned folks called it by this thorny name. Even Grandma Todora nodded as she stared at Stefka. Now the girls wait to turn 18 before they give birth, Grandma Todora went on. Look at my granddaughter Sophia. She's 17 and still waiting. Don't you imagine that lads dislike her? On the contrary. Every night a couple of them stroll around our house, the old woman finished proudly. The women in my family are as beautiful as Bird Mountain. Stefka thought that age didn't mar the beauty of old Todora's face, of her eyes, more ancient than the oldest roofs in Chubra. The old woman's words floated in her smile that made you think of Muddy River and its rapid, edgy flow. Stefka, in your family, the boys are strong and tough, I give you that. But they are fishermen, all of them. I don't know if that's good or if it's downright stupid. Yes, Stefka agreed. She wondered why the sun seemed to shine brighter that day for her. Actually, she knew. Samuel and Desislav, her sons, and our old boy who had given her a ring as thin as a leaf of grass, were really good-looking. Nikola, the orphan, grew up and became a tall and strong lad. The four of them planned and calculated, scrimped and saved for months, but never bought that fishing rod from Sungalari. I know this rod, muttered Grandma Todora, smiling mysteriously. Stefka knew what mysterious meant, i.e., you heard something the other person hadn't got a wind of, and you gave yourself airs on this account. The thing cost 123 lever. You'd say this fishing rod was made of pearls. Come off it. You should not, Stefka, Squander honest money on this nonsense? No way. Fact is stronger than fiction, and the fishing rod was a heap of nonsense through and through. Eleanor, Stefka's best friend, was of the same opinion, but Zachary's birthday was September 15th, and a birthday meant a gift. Stefka bought him tank tops, socks, something you couldn't live without. You should forget about fishing rods here and now. They cost heaps of money. Well, Stefka, who was born in December, had told her friend, Eleanor, don't give me a present for my birthday. Give me money instead. I'll take care of the pennies, and the pounds will take care of themselves. I have something in mind, you know. It was clear what was on her mind. September 15th and that fishing rod in Sungallari that cost an arm and a leg, a complete rip-off. You have to pay the earth and all the beasts walking on it, as Hristo Botev, the father of the Bulgarian poetry, had said. And he was a poet and the most decent man who happened to live beneath the Bulgarian and Roma sky. Every word that guy wrote was worth a truck loaded with pure gold. On the other hand, the owners of that shop in Sungallari were a greedy lot. Could a fishing rod cost as much as a whole planet and the beasts loping across its plains? Mom, Samuel said, Dad's birthday is on September 15th. I will pick rosehips and sell them, and we could buy this fishing rod. What would you say? Mom, Desislav, her younger son, chimed in, I'm going to sweep Manol's barber shop. Let's buy this fishing rod for September 15th. What do you think? Stefka, began Grandma Todora, look here. I have saved some cash from my monthly pension, and there's more to it. I will go to Sliven, and guess what I'll do there? I'll read folks' palms. You know, I'm exactly what they call it on TV, a scanner. Today I see everything that heaven has written for you about your life tomorrow. Water my tomato plants for me, will you? Pick all the ripe tomatoes and chop them. Don't forget September 15th. Let's hope we'll collect 123 levs. How about it? Aunt Stefka, began Nicola, who was already as tall as the flag in the front of the town hall in the village of Chubra, and most of the girls thought he was quite handsome. Aunt Stefka, I went and plastered a house. I saved a little money. How many days until September 15th? 123 levs is a fortune, but you understand it means much more than that. It's the coolest fishing rod. It was September 15th. The village seemed proud, the roofs of its one-story houses merry and bright in the sun, and the doors of the school waiting wide open to welcome the first graders on their first day of school. What sort of a person would you be if you didn't go to school? Would you be a human being at all? Or would the sky above Bird Mountain be ashamed of you? Then, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or perhaps at exactly 3:15 or 3:30, the whole family waited in Zachary Atanasov's house. Grandma Todora, Nicola, who was a high school student and seldom got a poor grade, Samuel, Desislav, and Stefka were all in the living room. The most important thing was that Grandma Todora, her most peculiar smile beaming among the wrinkles on her face, held a fishing rod in her hand. To put it plainly and more directly, not a fishing rod. The thing was a fairy tale. The earth, the sky, and a load of silver from the moon all rolled into one. That was what the fishing rod was. September 15th was an important person's birthday. Zachary entered the living room. This is for you, son, said Grandma Todora, the most mysterious woman in the village and probably all over Bulgaria. It's from us. You know why. Look at every face in Chubra, and you can count how many people have gotten rid of a serious disease. You gave them all a hand, Zach. Zachary took the fishing rod, lifted it slowly to his eyes as if he feared it would bite his hand. Shame on him. a serious man and a father of 2 sons. He turned the rod in his fingers, quiet as minnows in muddy river, then suddenly sat down on a chair. The table was beautifully laid: cheese pie, sweetbread, roast chicken, apples, pears, and wine. There must have been brandy as well, but Stefka didn't approve of it, and you could not find a thing Stefka disapproved of in their house. It was warm as it should be in the most generous month of September, on the most generous day in Bulgaria when school began. Zachary held the rod that cost 123 lebs, turned it left, right, left again, and said, "Well." For about a minute, he didn't mutter anything more than this weak, "Well." Silent, the sun shone and waited. Zachary's son, Nicola, and the most beautiful girl in Chubra, Stefka, Zachary's wife, were silent too. Grandma Todora picked up that song that had no words and no melody in it, one as long as the autumn that the Chubra babies liked so much, a tune that would help a girl find a lad. The lad had a gold ring, as thin as a leaf of grass. Young and old knew what a ring like this meant to all Roma people under the sun. It meant that you swore not to the loaf of bread that kept you alive. You swore to your blood and to heaven that you'd take care of this girl more than you'd take care of your heart. You'd love her more than you'd love the beautiful road that led to Chubra and to all other magnificent places in the world. "Well," Zachary began again, "Nicola, listen to me. This fishing rod is good." A light wind came from Bird Mountain, and that was what a decent wind should do, come back home to Chubra after it whistled and swept through the town square in Sliven. "Nicola, this fishing rod is for you. Your mum and dad are gone. You have no one to give you a thing like this." Then, indeed, September 15 reigned in Chubra, a village that had 100 one-story houses, all their roofs gazing at the nearby small town of Sungalare. The most generous day of September gave them the sun. It did, this quiet and most courageous day of the year.
Translation into English: Zdravka, Evtimova. This text was created with the financial support of the European Union and is part of the short story collection The Voices of Our Silence.